Okay, there we are. We are really going this time. So, mm-mm-mm. Bam. Yes, I have on a do rag today. Today is the day for a do rag because it's just about getting it done some days, you know? All right, let's bring Kristin in. Mm-mm-mm. Come on, Mercury retrograde. Nobody needs your shenanigans.
Yay, it worked.
Yo, I'm so sick of Mercury retrograde already.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
Already. Like, over. We got to like April 16th. This is a lot.
God. Dude, I'll already be in filming at that point. So I'm like,
Super fun.
ooh, I know. I'm like, the rest of our pre-production and the beginning of our production is going to be in Mercury retrograde. And then even like after that, oh my God, that's actually only, oh no, we have 2 weeks left after that. But even that last 2 weeks is still going to be in the post-retrograde period. But that's okay. I just got to show up. I show up and do my job.
That's all you can do. Everything
I'm
else
gonna
is
show up and
literally outside of your control.
do my 3 jobs.
One person,
Yeah,
3 jobs.
one person. Yeah, no, it's gonna be awesome though. Talk about getting out of your
Well,
own way. Making that shit happen.
no barrier to entry. Just got to do it. Sometimes that means 3 jobs. Sometimes that means 5. Anyway, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I am Kristin Iris, aka the Taino Queen, artist, associate film producer.
Nice.
Which would go in the artist category, but really I'm on the production side, not the creative side. Also speaker and coach for Black creatives in particular and exclusively, actually, if I'm being real.
In particular and only.
Exclusively Black creatives and people of the Black diaspora.
Heard. Well, I am Trinette, Black Teena Marie, coming to you live and in full effect from Baltimore, Maryland,
Whoop, whoop.
where it is almost 70 degrees, so that's very tight.
Yeah, that's awesome. It is not there here in Chicago. Chicago.
Right. I'm like, you got
It
this
is,
Cubs fucking sweatshirt on.
hoodie. Yeah, it is not that warm here.
That's okay. It's coming for
But
everybody.
it is above zero.
Which in
And
Chicago is
that's a win.
impressive.
That's a win.
In the Midwest in general, I will take above zero at
Yeah.
any moment.
Yeah.
All right. Well, today we are talking about getting the fuck out of your own way. Sounds super simple. Sounds intuitive, even. So
Yes.
not the case at all, ever. So I feel like there are different ways to kind of tackle this. There's the like, I feel like foundationally getting and being in your own way is kind of how we raise kids. Like it starts with like um the conformity for whatever your family dynamic is. And so if that's like converse to how you would naturally be, that starts it there of like second guessing yourself and guessing like your desires and your behaviors. And then there's the like you get into the wider world and there's the push for conformity there, right? And
Yes.
then especially like now you've entered what's essentially a funnel, and then you get pushed towards, colleges, like very specifically not pushed toward trade schools. So if you're a person that likes working with your hands, we still try to put you in a cubicle because we don't have space for that kind of stuff. And then you go to like your corporate things where you have like professionalism and codes of ethics. Like, not that I'm opposed to ethics, but you know what I'm saying. And just
Codes of
all of these
conduct.
codes of conduct too, like ethics, tight. But also, who got to establish these codes of ethics? And it wasn't like the most inclusive group of people. So, even those. And then you die.
Ah,
So, I feel like there's the part of getting in your way is feeding the stories that you've been told since you were a kid about yourself, and also about maybe groups that you identify with on a larger
yes.
basis. And then lack of representation, which makes you feel like there are things that you want that you can't accomplish because you don't see people who look like you, love like you, move through the world like you, in these places that you would like to be.
Yes.
Is there
There's a
something that
lot.
I missed? Yeah, because I mean, because that's like a lot. But I
There
feel like
is. Yeah, I
it's
mean, that's a lot of like the, you know, the external influences, and then the way that shows up internally is like not just doubting yourself, but because we, especially as Black people, are expected to show up in a certain way, which is often with a negative connotation and negative
mm-hmm.
narratives, and then for us to show up in a different way, um, is often based off of someone else's standard that doesn't actually look like us, and that showing
Yes.
up is a matter of survival oftentimes, and
Yes. Mm-hmm.
having to actually like get access to resources and things that you need to survive. um and so when we start showing up in that way, it's like we have to show up this way because that's what is necessary to survive, but we're also almost like looked at differently.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we show up in that way and it's like, what? Like people like second guess. It's like they don't. They're like, what? Huh? Well, what do you mean? You're not from the hood? What? Like, oh my God, you overcame so much. You know, it's like I did, but not what you think I did. Like, you know, so there's like certain expectations, and it's like when we show up in a way that we have to, we're still kind of looked at as like, oh, but do you really belong here? And
Right.
all of that. And it's like, I don't know, maybe I don't belong here because I don't want to be in this corporate setting anyway. You know,
Yeah.
so then when you start branching out and really going against both what the narrative, the expected narrative of you is, and that's something you want to do, going against what like the standard or the kind of like, I don't want to say elite, but
Yeah, I get what you mean.
the majority, you know, what the majority has set up, and you want to do something else, there are all kinds of things. And even when you go into those areas, so you end up with like perfectionism, with imposter syndrome,
Mm-hmm.
with really being a harsh critic of yourself, like harsher than you are to other people.
Oh,
You
100%.
know, not giving yourself the grace, or like when you make a mistake, like that one mistake makes everything a loss, you know? And so
Mm-hmm.
all of those things play into the ways that we get in our own way. Like perfectionism and imposter syndrome are such a huge thing. And all of that's based in fear.
Uh, I feel like going back to not giving yourself any grace. So you make the mistake, like, and because you never give yourself any grace and you don't allow forgiveness for yourself, it's never just, oh, okay, take this thing for what happened, you know, embrace the lesson in it, you know, because
Yeah, what did
we're
I learn?
what did I learn? Because
I
failure is
learned
a part of success, and
how to not build the light bulb.
I learned, you know, to feel bad about the fact that I wasn't perfect, because as people of color, as women, you have to show up perfectly. And what showing up perfectly means imitating a lot of white supremacist ideals. And there's this tension, for like on a scale of how much tension it is, I guess, is how much you want to ride the wave of white supremacy versus how much you want to just tear the whole motherfucker down. um of showing up and like not having any room to fail. So you really internalize failures or mistakes as character flaws, because so much about
Yes.
who you are is already received as like moral deficiency. Like Black people are in the situation they are in because they won't pull themselves up from the you know, their bootstraps. They won't knock off the black on black violence. There are no black fathers in the home. Like all of that
Yeah.
stuff. So like you
Yeah.
already,
Or they're lazy. They don't want to really work. That's why they go to
Yes.
crime. And it's like,
yeah,
that's
like this country was built on our backs, but we lazy. Cool, got it. Heard.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so then you, as much as you can like academically approach those things as false, there are still narratives that have crept in. So
Yes.
you know, like there's only so much protection you can do, especially if you don't have parents that are pouring into you that these things that they say about us are not true. Like parents do focus more on exceptionalism than actually actively doing anti-racism work with their children of color. Like, we're not talking about white parents engaging with their white children to do anti-racism work. A lot of, I would even say most parents of color will talk about racism as this bad thing that you have to overcome, but then we push exceptionalism versus like anti-racism work and trying to raise kids that are born understanding kind of a like systemic ways that like these things are going to come at you. It's like instead of just being like, you are going to be whoever you are and I support whoever you are, it's, you know, you learn how to code switch, you learn how to navigate white spaces, you learn all of this stuff, you learn how to show up as the best black that you can be instead of just like the best version of yourself. So that narrative definitely starts to come in because then you're constantly looking at how you're showing up in a way that's not, oh, I'm trying to show up as the best version of myself. It's like, oh my God, am I showing up, you know, like I can move in these spaces, like I belong here? Because especially when you raise kids like that, you're telling them essentially you don't belong, but this is how we can fool them.
Like, this is how we can trick them. Yeah. Pull the wool over their eyes.
But like your black parents will still be like, I mean, this person don't deserve this, that, and the third, but like they've accepted that this is the way things are. Like my parents aren't radicalized in any way. None of the adults in my families are. I have a hotep uncle, but that's like that's something else. But like none of my family has critically engaged with race or misogyny or any of the things. So when here comes my always outspoken ass, even in childhood, like falling into the lines was not something I was going to do. And my parents are not set up to honor that about me. So they just reinforce the stories of like my otherness and how I need to basically camouflage things that are markers of the fact that I grew up in the hood. They're markers that I am black, markers that I am a woman, like all of these things. And so now I get in my own way because I just can think about the stuff that they've said and the stuff that's like been put in front of me. And it's a lot easier to be like, this is how you're not measuring up versus like, oh, here are some of your triumphs.
Yeah. So I actually had a little bit of the opposite experience, and it still led me in ways of like getting in my own way. So I was not raised with this like, here's how to camouflage and the world's not going to accept you. Like I feel like I wasn't really prepared to navigate the world as a black person and a black woman specifically. I did get that you can be anything and you are like all of those things that like we tell parents to tell their kids. I feel like are things that I got. But when I was navigating the world, I was there. It's like now I can recognize it because I'm an adult, and this is why I like look back and like work to dismantle these things. But like at the time, there was this feeling of like invisibility in a way, or being looked at in a negative way, but I didn't understand why. And so at the same time of me not understanding why, I'm still being fed these negative ideas and images from media and the world around me, and not really having the full awareness to actually process what I'm taking in. They're just like imprinting. They're imprinting on my brain and changing how I show up in the world. So like I spent, you know, it's like I didn't, you know, like white people will always at some point they're gonna make it clear that you're not one of them. And I feel like I had moments like that and was like not prepared for it, didn't really understand what was happening, was like, why am I being othered right now? And was just like, is this why? Is it because of this? Is that still happening? It's the 90s. What? Like, you know, and as a kid, I was like, what? I don't understand. It's like, it's 98. I don't get it, you know? And like, I was not prepared, you know, because even in school, it's like segregation is over and slavery is over, which is not actually true, and blah, blah, blah. And, oh, and we're in this, no, it's not post-racial. We still live in this racist as hell, you know, country. And so I grew up in this, like, I can be anything and I can do what boys do and I can do what anybody does, and like had no understanding of the fact that like everyone was, it's not just that I couldn't be beautiful because there aren't people like me in magazines. It was that the whole world is looking at me differently because I'm brown, and not really understanding that. And then getting all of the ways that I was made to feel invisible and made to like, wait, I'm doing just as good as everybody else. Why are you looking down on me? And these moments that I just thought was people not seeing me. And that later on I had come to realize like there was a racial part of that. There is a gender part of that, or gender representation. I mean, I am cis, but you know, people don't really know. You don't really know when you look at somebody. So like gender and racial elements to that were like, this is why people weren't seeing you. This is why people didn't like see your accomplishments. This is why people didn't see your hard work, because like, oh, they're assuming you're lazy because you're Black. And like, it's something I can get now looking back. But at the time, I was just like, people really don't see me, and I know that I'm awesome, and I'm going to fucking prove that I'm awesome. So aside from being a Virgo, there's that driving me into like intense perfectionism, and also like having these super, super high goals that I only had because I wanted to prove myself, and not because I really, really, really wanted to go to the Olympics for boxing, or I really, really, really wanted to get X degree. It was like, do I really want to go back to school? No, you know? So I was like this super, like trying to be a super high achiever, and trying to be a perfectionist, and anything that was like, I did this wrong or this was a mistake, it was a loss. The whole thing was a loss, and that's a reflection on me, and I'm not good enough, and all of those things. And so it plays into how you pursue any of the things that you're doing, whether it is a business endeavor or career endeavor, which can be business, or an artistic endeavor, which could also be career, or like a relationship endeavor, you know, like all of these things, whatever it is, there's so many ways that we get in our own way just because we've gotten these messages in the various ways. You know, like your experience is you were taught to camouflage. My experience was I was not prepared to navigate the world as a Black person, and didn't get, you know, these responses until at this point, it was probably like my 30s, very, very late 20s, early 30s. And now I'm like, oh, you know.
It all makes sense now.
Yes, it all makes sense. And it is like in the last few years, like there's a lot of things that I've been dismantling for like years. That's why I do the work that I do with other Black people, is to help them look at the shit that's in their way. But like, it's in particular, I think the last 3 years, so I guess after 30, that I've really looked at like the race elements of that, and race and patriarchy, to see how that has really played into so much of everything else, like my perfectionism.
It's funny, going back to something you said earlier, I've had this conversation with my partner about that moment when you think that y'all are just friends, and then it is made undeniably clear to you that they're friends, you're the Black friend. Like,
Yeah.
And it's not that the friendship isn't real, the friendship is very real, but at no point did either of you, or if it's in a group setting, this is nobody unaware that you're Black. Like, you don't just get, it's very rare that you get those relationships. And I feel like the friendships I have with, and there are also other people of color, is when you're open and talking about the stuff. Like, I feel like a lot of people feel like to preserve their friendships and whatever other relationships that they have, that it's about not saying the hard stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to that othering that you feel, I'm sitting here thinking about my like long standing relationships, which are going on 20 years. So a decent body of evidence. Um, Forgetting that people are their intersections, I guess, like they're just people, is when you've had these conversations, when people can say, hey, this thing that happened to my ethnic group, my religious, I know my mom called me. I forgot to put my phone on do not
Okay.
disturb again.
I forgot
And
to
then I
do it too.
answered.
I was like, somebody called her. I could tell somebody called her right now. I'm like, please, nobody call me. Please, nobody call me.
I was sitting here, I was like, I should be okay. I'm not. I wish there was a way to like FaceTime her and put her on the show. She's like, Trinette. I'm like, stop calling me. Uh, but yeah, just being able to say that this particular thing that is important to me is being seen by my friends. Like, I don't need you to not be different than me. And I feel like specifically when you have relationships with people in a dominant group, so trans friends with me know that they can talk about trans stuff. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't have to just talk about the things that are
right.
only in common.
And of course, like that is a moment of anxiety for me because I know how painful it is to have your experiences invalidated, and for
Mm-hmm.
somebody well intentioned and somebody who does care for you to say something that's hurtful in ignorance. So I try to, on my end of things, like kind of ease that pressure off of myself. Not that I'm not mindful what comes out, but like realize that your relationship is strong enough that this person can correct you, like be teachable in
Mm-hmm.
all of your in all those various ways. But those relationships that don't make me feel like I'm performing by being in them make me feel much more at ease and comfortable with just showing up as myself. Um,
Yeah.
like
And
relationships
being
that you
able to
code
talk about
switch
things, be like,
in.
this is fucking hard. You know,
Yeah.
like our high school friends, I mean, those are those people where you can
Mm-hmm.
be like, oh, blah, 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 this is what's going on, or this is what's bothering me about like living black in the world or something, or,
Yeah.
you know, and they can come with those similar things. But I've got other groups that I've actually pulled away from that I'm just like, ooh, you guys are not, you don't listen. Like,
I think
you
I've
don't
gotten too old for the
listen.
idea of buddies. Like, if we can't
Yeah.
have real conversations, like that's what your buddies are for. You go to the bar, you hang out with your buddies, you watch whatever thing that's not real important with your buddies. These are not the people that you have deep conversations about, whether they're about politics or what the fuck ever else. It's just like, man, I'm having issues with my kid. Like, these are not the people you talk to about that. So,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I
exactly.
think, especially, I've amassed enough people in my life that, like, I can actually filter those relationships. Like, I don't try to nurture anything out of a desire to have people in my life. And, like,
Yeah.
the more that I kind of am intentional about the relationships I have, the more I notice the stories I have about myself also change. Like, I mean, it's still there. I'm still dealing with them, like, hardcore. But having people in your life that, like, you can be like, I'm anxious right now. And they'll be like, what do you need? Do you need to problem solve? Do you need a plan? Or do you just need to vent? Or, like, what do you need?
Yeah, do you need
Makes
a
feeling
hug?
anxious
Do you need some ice
right.
cream? What do you need?
Both and all. Um, but then it decreases the story of like it being a character flaw or some type
Mm.
of moral failing of mine, because it's just like, especially as a black woman talking about any type of mental illness or mental condition, like when so many people depend on your strength and so many people depend on you to show up every day at work, at home, in your friend circles, at whatever outside activities you have, like to just be like, right now, I'm not fucking perfect. Like, I am the opposite of perfect. I'm not necessarily flawed in this moment, but like, this is a thing that I have that happens sometimes. And just having to be like, all right, cool. Like, I get it. It goes such a long way to rewriting the stories in your head that you have about how you should be trying more. You're not trying hard enough. You're lazy. You're this, that, and the third. It's just like nobody ever took the opportunity to see you as a full person. And now that I'm older and in control of more things about the people I interact with, I don't have to have those people in my life. Or like where I keep you in my life is in a very manageable spot where I don't actually have to give a fuck about your opinion, quite frankly.
Yeah, those are the people that like you see because you both got invited to the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
not like, yeah.
We don't have beef, but we're not actively hanging out either.
Yeah. You're like, you're not seeking these people out.
Mm-mm.
You know, like these are not the people you seek out. It's like, oh, hey man, yeah. Oh, it's like I see you at the bar, you know.
Yeah, cool.
I actually do have one buddy like that I do sometimes seek out, but it's like me and this other friend, and then our buddy, and I like just yesterday. I mean, it's like I guess I don't really like hang out with him one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
But like every couple months I'll be like, hey man, we haven't gotten together. And it's like the three of us will sometimes like to get together, you know?
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of like one of those, but that's kind of the only person really. Everybody else, it's like, I'm really intentional about who I keep around me and who I really like. It's one thing to be like, oh, I'm sharing with you because we're catching up. It's another thing to be like, oh, I'm really telling you what's going on in my life, and or like a problem that's coming up or something like that, or we're having really like in-depth conversations. Sometimes that catch up is just like, oh, here's the awesome shit that's going on. It's not like, oh my God, my anxiety was so bad this week. I was having nightmares about like teleporting and people being eaten. Like, you know, like you're not talking about that shit. You're talking about like the cool shit that sounds good.
Yeah, you're keeping it cute as hell because you're like, I don't really, I don't need to because it's like you can use good news as kind of a buffer, because some people, when they ask, how are you, they don't really want the real.
Yeah.
So if I just give you a cute little glaze, you feel like you've done your due diligence. I feel like I've done mine. We can just move to other people in this situation. But it's like, I think it's also being on this side of 30 that, like, in my 20s, I had a really hard time letting people go. Not that I don't now.
God, me too.
But that was, like, it was a struggle. And then, like, as you get older, you realize that everybody can't go where you go. And it's not a failure for you or for them. Like, wherever you are is not the same. And it's not that they can't come back in your life. Like, there are people that we went to high school with that I did not connect with until our adulthood. And now we are friends. We were, you know, schoolmates. Then everybody went off and had whatever life that they had. And then in adulthood, through the magic of Facebook, you see these people like, oh, you're really fucking cool. Like, how can I support that project?
Yeah.
But then you find something much more real to connect with these people on. And then you start to feed each other. But you also start to lose people along the way. And that feels like one of my fears around success, because I think I have more fears around success than failure. But like my fear of success is just like, one day it's all going to disappear. You're going to be left with nothing. Is people saying
success,
that you've changed.
Failure.
Right. But mostly success. But having people say that you've changed, or, you know, like, it was your fault that we couldn't be friends anymore. And you're like, was it though? Because, like, I remember winning and you couldn't clap for me because you weren't also winning. Or, like, all of our conversations had to be about you. Like, you weren't actually a friend. You weren't a sounding board. You weren't anything that these 6 other people are on a regular basis. So you can vacate your spot, and then we can get a 7th motherfucker who's here for everybody. The person who brings snacks. Like, you know, like, we don't need
bring
all
snacks
of your
and good
bullshit.
conversation. Now, see,
and other resources.
Yes. So this actually kind of recently happened. Well, not exactly happened like that, but so I have or had a friend who like in November, and I told you about this, like I feel like over the years, like there was a time when like we were closer and he was like there for me, but then in the last few years, I'm always the one who's reached out to him, and he is not, like, he hasn't really reached out to me. And then in November, I like told him something pretty big and it just like got silent and was like, okay, cool. So like that's disappointing. And like it was hurtful to have that completely ignored, this like traumatic thing that happened to me. And that was the point where I was like, let me actually look at this relationship because I've been the one putting in all the effort. I've been the one who checks in on this person because I know that they're like unhappy or X, Y, and Z is going on or something like that. And they're not really ever reciprocating. I'm like, that's cool. That just means that to me, we're not that level of friend that we used to be. Like we are not those friends anymore. You are someone who
that I
is
used to know.
I kind of wanted to say that because that is actually more the situation is like now I'm like, okay, we're not friends. Like I don't hate this person. I'm just like, you are no longer in the friend category and I'm not actually trying to like interact with you, especially with that kind of like for that specific situation and having that silence. And it's like I am so much quicker to let people go now. I am so much quicker to let people go. And this is one of those people where like they are constantly blaming everyone else for when their relationships fail. And in some ways, like over the years, I was like, oh, I get what they mean. I get what they're saying. But being on this side of it and being older and looking back, I'm like, they put a lot of blame on other people and weren't necessarily taking responsibility of their own role as well. And so that like I am one of those people that like watch in like a year they're going to be saying that like I abandoned them and that like X, Y, and Z and that it's my fault we're not friends or something. And it's like, okay, literally go back at our text history because you're going to see exactly why I didn't bother texting you after that. And I think this relationship and friendship and just all kinds of relationship element is really important because I have held myself back. Like some of the biggest ways that I've held myself back is being in connection with people that I had no business being in connection with anymore. Friendships and relationships, people that I'm like, you are holding me back. You are dragging me down. You are like being abusive, or you are not rooting for me. You are not rooting for me on the outside. I don't know if you're rooting for me on the inside, but you are deliberately showing that you're not rooting for me on the outside. Like I had someone like that too, where like they're like, oh, well, you're doing these cool things and you're one of the most intelligent women I know. And I'm like, the whole 7 years that we were involved, you never said that. So I don't really buy it now. And that was like after. Yeah, it's like, so all these ways, like the people that you are around have such a huge influence on what you are doing and how capable you even feel doing it. And you can know that like I am physically capable of doing that, but believing in yourself, like really believing in yourself and being like, I not only can physically or am capable of doing this, I will do this and I know that I'll do this. And when you have the right people around you, that changes because some of the friendships that I've had were just like me in tears and me like trying to help this person. A lot of friendships with me trying to help this person and me trying to help this person who don't want my fucking help. So I'm over here expending all this energy because, oh, I know I can help them. I'm playing Captain Save-A-Ho. That's not my job. Literally not my job, but I wasted so much time and energy doing that with people because I care and because I wanted to be like seen and as valuable, that actually held me back from like where I really need to be putting my energy. And that's not to say abandon people, but like, I mean, sometimes you do have to abandon people. So I'm just saying it. I'm not saying that like, if someone's in trouble, just be like, I got things to do. Like,
there's a
that's
difference
not what
between
I mean.
choosing you and abandoning someone. Like,
yeah, exactly. It's like, but did they ask for your help?
Right. in the first place.
If you offered help and they didn't want it, are you still trying to force your help onto them? You know, like these things are ways that we hold ourselves back. Staying in relationships with people that we know are bad for us. That was me, you know? And so that completely, and I knew when I was in it, I'm like, this person is really holding me back. Like, I'm never going to be able to excel because everything I do is just like, they don't even see it. They don't care. They're not rooting for me. They're not making me feel good about any. If I want to feel good about what I'm doing, I go to Trinat, I go to Serenity, I go to like this person and that person. Because this person that I'm actually involved with doesn't actually give a shit. What am I doing here? You know, and like so many things open up when you actually let those people go, or even if you don't fully let them go, like sometimes it's people in your family. Maybe you just like move them to a different category or move them to a different box. I will engage with you in this way, but I will not engage with you in this way. And that shift and those boundaries opens up the pathway for you to really excel in whatever it is you're doing.
Totally. I find that I have always been attracted to collaborators. Like, I always attract collaborators because I got so much going on up in here all the time. But the voices that are loudest are always the ones of, you can't do that. And when you start to really look at the people that you're around, or the people that you place the most value on their opinions, and you start to see who they are and how they navigate their life, and then you're just like, wait a minute.
Oh my God, a word. Oh.
You're like, what the fuck am I listening to you?
Dude, just read the fuck out of me. Why don't you? God. Like, that was me like, oh, I care so much about what this person cares about. Be like, wait, this person's doing nothing. They're doing the same shit they were 5 years ago and they're still bitching about it.
And that's my thing. It's like, you know, the quote that you are the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time around. And it's like, when I think about my friends, like, none of us are necessarily scaling the corporate ladder. Like, my bestie is in a management position in corporate America, but like, her thing is still about fulfillment of self. Like, it's not about being the CEO of a hospital, and she don't give a fuck about that. She wants to be able to do the kind of work in her field that pays her the money that she needs. Bitch got a lifestyle, okay? But also the personal fulfillment of the career that she has. Like, a career-minded people, or people who are like, I work this job so that it pays for my passions, and I'm fine with that. Mm-hmm. Ambition and success look a lot different for the people that I spend time around, because one, it's a diverse group of people, and the way we talk about things are like, all right, at the end of the day, I have to be on the hook for the choices that I make. And I know that when I felt like I was spinning my wheels, like, I feel a lot less like that now that I've gotten clarity around like what I feel like I need to be doing in the industry that I'm in and with my gifts that I have. I feel much better about claiming things as mine. Like, my imposter syndrome can pop up, but there are enough people around me who are like, no, you have these gifts. People need these gifts. Get the fuck over it. Because that's how I need people to talk to me sometimes. Like that.
Yeah, that's mostly exactly how it sounds when we do it.
Yeah. So it's just like being able to have success defined on personal terms and have it respected. Because people like to feel like it's a cop-out if you're like, I don't want to climb the corporate ladder. It's like, oh, because you don't think that you can hack it. It's like, no, I don't want what that lifestyle requires.
Yeah.
Those people don't even look happy, but we're so trained that material success leads to personal fulfillment, which also feeds those negative narratives that we have in our head about us, especially if that's not what you want. I do not want to have to worry about money ever in my life. I don't want my kids to have to worry about money. I want when one of my aunts needs something to be able to get that for her. I want to be able to help strangers. I want to be able to contribute to nonprofits I care about.
Yes.
I want to be able to support independent artists I care about. But my measure of success,
films I care about.
Right. Like, my measure of success at the end of the day is about, did I let fear win and stop me from doing what I know that I should be doing? Like, that is a marker of success for me. And I feel like for a lot of people, success is very external. And I think that's something that we all battle, because, you know, I'm sitting here saying this and it's true, it's not false, but like, there's still those moments when you get in a room full of people who have those traditional markers of success and you're like, okay, but like, do I need those? Should I still get those? Like, I would still like to be on a fucking 40 under 40 list, but it's not my driving force. Like, I want to be doing such good work. I'm so into the good work that I'm doing. I'm so happy with my output, not about being productive the way it looks to other people, but that I have worked through my challenges that have kept me from doing the stuff I wanted to the point where somebody else is like, yes, bitch, 40 under 40. And I'm like, oh, snap, thank you. That's tight. Like, it's nice to also look up and have like a milestone marker. But that's different than when I was in my 20s and I was like, I need to be on a 30 under 30 list. And like getting to 29 being like, fuck.
Yeah, it was like the, you know, the prestige of it.
Yeah. And now it's like, I want to be doing good work more than I want that. But I also understand that things like that open other doors and get me into rooms that I can come in and then rip the fucking door off the hinge, and then all these people can follow in behind me, and actually we just take over the room and change everything. But, you know, 40 under 40.
Yeah, markers of success. I still feel like I have certain things where it's like, this is considered successful, and like, I still kind of want this thing, you know?
Yeah.
But
you want them for you, not just because they are these.
Yeah, I don't want it. It's like, you know, like I don't want to have to worry about money. I don't have like a specific amount that I want to be making in, but I know what I want to be able to do with money. So for me, it's like, can I do these things? And there are certain markers for success. Like, I would love to win an Oscar one day, you know, or like a couple of Oscars. I mean, and that's not really a marker of success, I guess. Like, that wouldn't be like, oh, if I didn't win an Oscar, I wasn't successful. It'd be like, oh, sweet. You know, that would just be like an awesome thing to have happen, kind of like the 40 under 40. You know, I would like that, but I'm not going to be like, oh my God, I didn't win an Oscar. I'm a failure. My whole life is nothing. Like, I'd be like, cool, there are lots of awesome movies that didn't win Oscars, you know?
The Rock is never going to get an Oscar. That motherfucker is a roaring success.
He is crazy successful, and he's not going to win one for anything he's done so far.
Or directing.
I mean,
probably
not, but only because of where he likes to play.
Exactly. And I'm fine with it.
Yeah, and that's cool. Like, and he's wild successful according to the standard of success, which is money.
But also, when you hear him talk, he feels successful, like, to be able to do things for his mom, and he still suffers from depression. So I think that, like, that's a very interesting kind of thing where people feel like you hit these markers of success, and then like all your problems are supposed to disappear, and it's like, no, you're still a person. You still have battles, and that's why defining success is so important to do on your own. I swear to God.
I was like, somebody called again.
But defining success on your own terms, it shifts that shit where you self-sabotage because you're so busy being anxious about the performance because you're measuring by other people's standards. But if you're just like, all right, this is my pet project, this is something I want to do for myself, you can take your time, which, oh my God, is a game changer.
Yeah.
You can admit what you don't know. which is also a game changer. Not feeling like you have to be the smartest person in the room or you have to have everything figured out. But like you get there and you're able to enjoy the grind more. You're able to enjoy the journey because you're doing it for you versus when you're doing it for accolades, for other people's attention, and for other people to see you and validate that you're real, that you're a real girl. That's the path that leads to all of that anxiety and that anxiousness because you don't have any control over what people say about you, and nobody wants anything to say nobody wants anybody to say anything bad. You don't want to disappoint anybody. You don't want to cause any harm. So it's like you're like walking through a field of landmines of other people's opinions, and like they will kill you. Like if you dine on other people's opinions, you'll starve when they don't give them to you. Like you have to find this balance of just being able to be like, the main person I got to please is me, period, point blank. And that's a lot of unwinding of stories and just like being told that you don't matter and that what matters is your output and your productivity and like what you give to people is what matters.
Yes.
So,
and that's the thing about the external markers of success. Even things like Oscars or the 40 under 40 or just like whatever it is like when you have that external thing, I think an element of success or how you start to define success for yourself is to not, there's a term, it's destination something, but it's basically like the I'll be happy when.
Yes.
Or, and it's that external marker of like, when this thing happens, then I'll be happy, then I'll be successful, then I'll be able to work on my book, or then I'll be able to X, Y, and Z. And it's always this like some event or incident or some kind of external marker, and then. And I think one of the more important things is like, how do you really want to feel? So I had this freebie that I'm going to be revamping, and it's about creating your future vision. And part of that is like, you're getting in your vision, but like, how do you really want to feel? And then not just, oh, I want to feel that when, because guess what? When you get there, you're going to have new goals. You're going to have new things that you're working towards. You're going to have new things that you're pursuing. But when you think about how do I want to feel? Like, how do I want to feel in my life? How do I want to feel when I'm successful? What does that feel like? And start cultivating that in your everyday. Start cultivating that in how you pursue those things. Then you start to bring that feeling of success or that feeling of like happiness or that feeling of joy or bliss or whatever it is into the process and into your everyday living. And it's not just this goal when I do that. And I used to do that. Was like, well, when my yoga business is big enough, then I'll be able to work on my novel because I'll have this independent income and I'll be able to travel. When X, Y, and Z happens, then I'll be able to do this. And in that whole process, it was even like, okay, well, when this is a success, then I'll cut back from 18-hour days and I'll start working like a regular person, 18-hour days in my own business, not at work, not at some other job, 18-hour days in my own business. Wake up, get started, and it's 2:00 in the morning. I'm like, I gotta go to sleep, and I hated doing that. But I had this idea of like, when X, Y, and Z happens, then I won't do this anymore. Then I'll be able to relax. Then I'll be able to travel. Then I'll be able to write my book. And the whole time I'm just like sitting in there exhausted, depleted, not enjoying myself. And when we look at like, well, how do I really want to feel and build that into the process, then it doesn't, not that it doesn't matter if you hit whatever goal, but like the goal stops being the center
most
of
important
everything.
part.
Yeah, it stops being the everything that it stops being what you anchor your happiness to. And it starts just being like a marker of the next step.
I feel that so deeply.
And so, bring that into your everyday. And that could be like, if you want to feel like, oh, I want to feel at ease, or I want to feel joyful. And like something that makes you feel joyful is like having 5-minute solo dance parties in the middle of your day. Do that in the middle of your day. Do that 5 minutes somewhere in your day, and you're already cultivating more joy. You're already cultivating more of whatever it is that you want to feel.
That's so powerful.
And it also helps when you're pursuing goals, Because if you're like, ooh, this does not feel the way I want to feel, maybe this is not how I should be going about this. Or maybe I'm going in the wrong direction. Maybe that's not
what I was
actually going to
about to
make me
say.
feel that way. Okay, there we go. Like, maybe that's not
Yeah.
actually going to make me feel that way. When you actually focus on how you want to feel, it can actually guide your path, and it'll show you when you're off your path. Your true path.
Like, when you're so
Thanks for the
attached
hearts,
to one
Moira.
particular when you're so particularly attached to one outcome, that makes failure have so much more weight, because now you tied your happiness to this one outcome, instead of being like, I know in my work I need to feel a certain way. Like, I know that I need to feel valued as a member of the team. Whatever thing I do, this is obviously working for somebody else. I know that in my work with other people, I need to feel valued as a member of the team. I've spent enough time building other people's dreams in enough situations where I'm like, I am not going to be miserable. I don't deserve to be miserable, and that's a choice. I'm choosing not to do that. I will go. I will give it my all, because I am responsible for that. That's going to also make me feel good about the work that I do. Am I showing up, giving the best that I have? That's going to change from day to day. But if I can look at myself at the end of the day, be like, you know what? I gave 100% today, regardless of how the fuck y'all received it, or if I did or did not get seen in that moment. I know I did it. But at a certain point, that only is going to take me so far, because then you're undervaluing me, and I don't want to feel undervalued. So not being attached to one particular outcome or waiting to feel good once you get somewhere is so important. And I feel like that is a journey that I'm definitely still on. But yeah, like, that shit is really important.
Yes. Yes.
Chile. So, what are some of the strategies, throwing it back to George W. Bush, that you have in place?
Oh, I miss him.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far. I miss him like I miss strep
comparatively,
throat.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I miss it. I mean, he was better than what we got,
Which is
and
fucked up.
yeah, which
I
is
miss
real fucked
Obama.
up.
I
And he
don't
was
miss
sort of,
George
you know,
Bush.
I miss Obama, but if I can only miss a Republican, I a little bit miss Bush.
I only miss his interactions
You're
with
like,
Michelle
remember that
Obama.
dork who used to be in the White House? Like, he was
I
way
only
better
miss
than
his
the
reaction,
Cheeto.
his moments with Michelle Obama, because those are fucking comedy gold. He brought candy specifically for Michelle Obama at his father's funeral. He
I was
loved Michelle
like,
Obama.
yeah, I felt a way about that. I'm like, she's not your child and she's not your pets.
Oh
I
no,
don't
that's not
know.
what.
I
That was a
felt
token
like
of his affection. That wasn't like he's. If Michelle Obama was going, George is going. That's all I'm saying. He got jungle fever for Michelle Obama.
oh my god. Okay,
Anyway,
so back to your question, the
yes,
strategies
the strategies.
for not getting in your way, for getting out of your own way.
Both.
Okay.
I'm more good. I'm more gooder at getting out of my way than stopping myself in the first place.
Yeah,
I'm a
that
work in
comes
progress,
with
people.
yeah, that comes with practice because here's the thing, to be able to stop yourself in the first place, you have to know what your own bullshit is. You have to know
Yes.
what your own internal story is, what your underlying like deep down root story is,
Yeah.
and that takes a lot of digging and a lot of peeling back the layers, which takes time and people like to rush that. And so I think one of the you have to start with getting out of your way when you see yourself in your way. And
Yeah.
that means exploring like when you're feeling stalled in something is like, okay, what's really going on here? Like why am I really not doing what I know that I should be doing or what I want to be doing? Like why am I not like why is it every time I sit down to work on my novel, I get up and watch Netflix instead? You know, why is it that every time I want to post this blog article or a blog article, I like pause and I'm sitting there for 20 minutes staring at my screen with my finger over the click, over the submits, and I'm not clicking it. And then finally I do, like, why do I do that? You know, and so it's looking at the things where you're feeling stuck, where you're feeling frustrated, where you're feeling imposter syndrome or perfectionism, and not just like accepting that feeling, but exploring that feeling and actually getting really honest with yourself about where that comes from in your personal history. And then also looking at what are your conditionings, what are your societal conditionings that have played into this, that have fed into this story. Because when you look at those things, you can actually break them down. Like this is exactly what I do with my clients actually, and like every program is let's dig down into that story and go from there into let's see not only how this is affecting this endeavor that you're trying to move into action, but like your relationships, your relationship with your parents, your relationship with society, with blah, 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 and looking at those things. Because as you start exploring and like changing those patterns, that's where you get to stop getting in your way.
Yes.
But the getting in your way is a pattern. It's a pattern that you do. And you can't change the pattern until you actually see the pattern and then recognize where it comes from. Because once you know where it comes from, when that pattern starts creeping up, you'll be like, wait, I know how this ends. Hold up, let me pause. I know I'm sabotaging myself right now.
Oh
I know
my
I'm doing
God.
this right now. I know that this dude is trying to rope me back in and I'm not going to text him. Like, whatever
Get that
it
devil
is,
dick away from me.
devil dick. whatever it is, you're going to be like, when you start recognizing the patterns, then you'll actually be able to stop the pattern and be like, oh, wait. I know what this is. Let me make a different choice. And it's not going to happen every time. It's not going to happen every time, and you're not going to catch it every time. But the more you catch it, and the more you catch it, the more you'll start to change it. And the more you change it, the more you'll keep changing it until you start to minimize the number of times you even start cycling into that pattern.
Bam, y'all. You heard it here.
There's a lot.
Get your
There's
shit
a lot
together.
going on with that. But I would say step one, just start to recognize like when you're in those stalled moments, like what's really going on for me here? And then when you answer that, say, okay, but what's really going on there? Okay, but what's really going on there? Where did that come from? And just keep asking questions.
If we were to put that in like a succinct way, would you agree that the phrase or the sentence examining your resistance or examine your resistance would be like?
Yes. Examine your resistance.
Okay. Because we know what that feels like. Some of us, like when I talk about like ADHD feelings, I'm like, it feels like there's an invisible wall between me and the stuff that I want to do. Like me and my ambition, or me and a project, or me and whatever. Like there's an invisible wall, or like it's like saran wrap. But like basically I'm talking about resistance. Like there's something there. So figuring out that stuff is very helpful.
Yeah, examining
Agreed.
your resistance. Also, and I know that was supposed to be succinct, but adding into that, what that looks like for you and the ways you distract away from it. Like, what are the ways that you numb out from feeling whatever's going on over here?
So let's put that more into steps, because I don't think that's the same thing. So it's more of
no,
a
it's
like,
not. It's not.
Yeah, it's bam. Examine your resistance.
So like one, recognize your resistance. Start to recognize the ways you run away from your resistance, which ends up cycling you back in. And then as you like examine your resistance, like diving deeper into that. So asking questions, why does that matter? Where did I learn that? Where does this come from? Asking key questions. And then after you're digging into that is making a different choice. It could be a small choice. It could be a small step. It might be like, oh, when I know that I self-sabotage by telling myself that I suck at this and I'm never going to be good at it. And that's when you start recognizing that, oh, like I'm cycling back into that thought pattern. Okay, you know what? Actually, maybe I'm not as good at it right now, but I can work at getting better and changing, like small steps to change it. It doesn't have to be throw the whole dude away. Maybe you'll build up to that step. Maybe it's, I'm only going to see you 2 days a week now because I got things to do.
Yes. I think that segues nicely into, for those of us who suffer from executive function dysfunction, being able to admit that you need help is a great thing. And then, because once you admit that you need help, which is a constant process, but then you can seek out help. And a lot of times the universe will provide help.
Yes.
Or there was already help in front of you that you were too busy having your ego hurt by to accept.
Yeah. That you were like, no, or you felt like you didn't deserve.
Right. It feels like a character flaw. Like you don't want anybody to see your mess. Like you're not supposed to let anybody into your messy house.
Yeah, you're like, no, I couldn't possibly take that. Oh, no, I couldn't possibly. Take it.
Especially because people, depending on who you are, people look at you a certain way and you feel like, oh shit, I'm supposed to be this person. And if I let you know that I don't have my shit 100% together, all together in one place, that my credibility is shot. Or that your credibility is shot. That you're like, oh, you're not I'm not who you think I am. It's like, but you have to realize, yes, you are, because even though people don't know what your struggle is, you are still struggling and you still show up a certain way. And I feel like we are starting to get to the point in society where we understand that seeing people struggle, seeing people's failures is almost much more beneficial than seeing your successes, because when we read books in school, we get the finished product and then we talk about that. We chop it up about what was the author's intent, blah, blah, blah. But we don't see how many drafts it took, how many years it took to write these books, how many books came out between the time this book was started and actually finished and published and sent out. So asking for help and being transparent go a long way.
Yes.
Yes.
That's such an important one. So the reason I did that is because I recently, a couple weeks ago, opened my my group program. So we're about 2 weeks in, and I had people who I offered a scholarship because I wanted to make it more accessible for people. And I had people who were like, oh, well, like I saw the scholarship, but I didn't want to apply because there are other people who are more deserving. And I'm like, apply. The scholarship is there for you to apply. Like that's up to me to decide who's getting the scholarship, who's getting scholarship. And it's not like and it's this idea of like, oh, I can't take it because if I take it, somebody else won't get it. Like, one, that wasn't even the situation. This is not college, okay? That was not the situation. But it's also like, why are you so sure that you don't deserve this? Like, why did you already comment yourself out? You have said, this is exactly what I need, and then the person is saying, hey, you would be great in this program, definitely go apply, we'll have a conversation, and you're like, oh, what? Okay, I'll do it now. Now that it's like they were waiting for this extra permission. The application on your screen is the permission. As long as you are of the Black diaspora, you can apply. If you're white, don't apply. That's the criteria. Like,
it's pretty straightforward.
That's the criteria, and it's like you can have the very thing in front of you and the very help that you need to get that thing, and people will still say no because they feel like they don't deserve.
Waiting for permission is probably one of my biggest things that I'm working through right now. And I give myself permission because I said so.
Yes, exactly.
Go fucking do it because you said so. You grow. Like, go do it.
Yeah, exactly. So, go do it.
All right. We are winding down. Also, my phone is about to die. Transparency. Do you have a one thing for this week?
I forgot.
Or a final thought?
A final thought. You go first. I went first.
Well, my one thing this week is definitely much love to the Muslim community in New Zealand and around the world right now. There's nothing to say about this shit. It blows my mind that people can have that kind of hate in their hearts and that kind of ignorance, but here we are. And I think that's why it's so important that we understand in our own struggles that there are people who struggle alongside of us. So there are tons of Muslim Black women. So when I talk about Black women, I have to also remember that Islamophobia is something that other Black women have to deal with.
Yes.
I have to be prepared to show up for my Muslim sisters. I have to be loud when I denounce Islamophobia, and I can't feel like it's not my job because it doesn't affect me. So I guess my one thing is make sure to hold space for any of your Muslim friends, family, coworkers, people you don't know. Hold space for them right now, and let them know that you are here and you see them, and that you will fight the battle of Islamophobia and xenophobia alongside of them. So that's what I got to say. You can piggyback on that if you want.
I am gonna have to, because I can't come up. Yeah, but in addition to, so all of those things, and in addition to that, as a one thing, not just to have an outcry and not just to be like scandalized by it, but to actually do something, take action, in whatever way that you can, whether that is calling your representatives wherever you are, whatever country, however that works where you are, and like seeing what can be done about these issues that are showing up in our global community, really. But it's not like, thoughts and prayers are nice, but like thoughts and prayers are not going to solve the problems that we have in general. So yes. Finding what can you do and take some kind of action, and also take care of yourself. So I guess that's two things.
I'm going to piggyback on that for one last point. Taking action also means examining your own internalized bias.
Yes.
Like, it's not all about what other people are doing. It's about how you also contribute to Islamophobia. And like, I don't want to say don't feel bad, but like, don't feel bad, because it's a story we've all been told. We all grew up with a 24, or where every time there was a terrorist, they looked like a particular type of person.
Oh my God.
Growing up in a Christian family, hearing that these people are heathens and their religion is wrong and like all of this shit. So in taking action, take action and examine that shit when it comes up for you, and even when it doesn't, like, get into it.
So. And calling out on other people too.
Yeah.
Call them in.
Call them in.
Call them in. And when you hear other people saying things, you're like, this is actually part of the problem. Is call them into that. Make them aware.
True. Where can the people find you on the internet?
On the internets, you can find me at kristiniris.com. That is my website. Also on Instagram at kristiniris. And on my podcast, Melanated Rising, on iTunes and the Spotifys.
Tight. You can find me at Black Teena Marie. That is Black_Teena, TEENA_Marie. You can also find the show at Pursue Black Excellence. Those are both on the Instagram, and on the Facebook at In Pursuit of Black Excellence. Like and share the page. Also like and share this video. We appreciate y'all's support. Enjoy your Friday.
Thanks,
yeah,
Laura.
all that good shit. So we'll talk to y'all next week. Bye.